So let's go to Northern California, shall we? Look at that. Look at how gross that is. That's an oil spill. For everybody listening to the podcast later, we're looking at an oil spill, and it's really gross. Chevron oil spill. State emergency officials say a pipeline containing a mixture of oil and gasoline is leaking 5 gallons a minute into the San Francisco Bay. 5 gallons a minute. Here, we'll watch some of this. Look at that. So that's oil all over the bay. That's just oil all over the bay. 5 gallons. I mean, that's a lot. That's what that is. That's a freaking lot. Look at how disgusting that is. Look at how absolutely disgusting that is. And we're told we just can't do anything about this. We're told that we just can't possibly change this. We just can't possibly do any better than this. Well, let's see what ABC's saying. So this happened, I believe, this morning. So here's what ABC's saying about this whole thing. I'm really scared. Neighbors sound off on 600. Okay, so it's up to over 600 gallons as of 2 hours ago. So it's probably even more than that right now. But as of 2 hours ago, from the recording of this, 600 gallons. There's another. God, look at that. I mean, you just see, you see this beautiful body of water and then just this slick of oil poisoning it. And then you take a step back and you realize we did this. We freaking did this. I think Jamal's here. Yeah, Jamal is here.
What's going on, man? I saw a tweet. I'm sorry, man. This week has been very weird and very intense. I saw a tweet from somebody who was like, "Hey, we're waiting on you to run." I was like, "Oh, shit, it's supposed to be a run." How's it going, man? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. What a crazy morning, huh? Between the oil spill, Narrowtandon's confirmation. Do you wake up in the morning, Jamal, and you're just like, what the hell are we doing?
What the hell are we doing? Yeah. There's a lot of mornings. There's a lot of mornings where that happens, right?
Yeah.
Look, I think part of the oddity of our world is that there really isn't a point to it. Right. It's basically, people don't necessarily like the radical freedom that's associated with that. You go out, you do whatever you want. And that's not entirely true. But from a larger context, it kind of is. Meaning you have restrictions and everything else. But basically, whatever you do, you can do. There's no God to tell you one way or the other. All of us come together and we figure we're going to end up doing this. And we plod along in the dark. And people say, hey, I know. Let's try to make as much money as we can possibly make. Let's make that the objective. And other people are like, well, wait a minute, that may have certain consequences. I mean, what about people's livelihoods? Capitalism, the greatest thing ever. And they push that way. And it makes sense in the sense that you have all of these incentives and everything else that go along with people making their cash and everything else and leaving people on the side. But everybody pushes in their own direction. And the wild part about this is there are things that we can push for the betterment of all of us. Those spacecraft that are going across and trying to get to Mars at this point, there are 3 different countries where those spacecrafts are landing on Mars, and all of them are doing different things. That is euphoric. That is euphoric. And that is something that we can also do. We can have scientific pursuits. We can try to do things for healthcare. We don't do those things. And, the wild part about it, even within the context of our capitalistic system, those things can be done. That's the wild part. Medicare, all of the countries around the globe basically are capitalist countries with the minor exception of a few. And even the ones that are not still engage in the capitalistic pursuit of making cash. So it's not a situation where you can't provide healthcare because of capitalism. We just don't do it. Or you can't provide people going to school. Yeah, you can do that. We just don't do it. Those things are problematic. I mean, and then you go from that to larger aspects of the world. To me, those things that are directly relevant to the individual matters more. And once those things are settled, the individual's perspective kind of widen to other things. Deal with the poverty. And that's what we don't touch. And until that becomes one of the main things where people are out of this thing where they have to work 9 to 5 or 9 to how many hours. And, they're breaking their backs doing one thing or the next without any ability to kind of look at their world and decide what they want to do as individuals. And worse, that work becomes the thing while screaming that they're free. If you work 12 hours, you're not free. I'm sorry. And there's a difference in those things. Our world shouldn't be this way. And
I like how you went philosophical right away, man. I think that's why you and I have always gotten along.
You have to. Because you have to make
I agree.
Well, the thing is, if somebody is arguing to me and they say capitalism is the greatest thing ever, I can't stop that argument. That's his point. That's his opinion. He can, as long as he's in this kind of subjective space, I can't touch him. The moment that you try to get literal, though, and you try to compare that to something in physical matter reality, I'm going to bust his ass, because that's where it starts, right? But I can't stop his point of view of saying, I think this is the greatest thing ever, especially if I don't care about the poverty. I don't care about people not being able to eat. I don't care about and you have some libertarians that say that is great. I like this idea of private fiefdoms fighting other fiefdoms. Get rid of the government and just let those things fight each other. But when you get to the point of saying, well, what is the point of this? And if the point of this is there's no point, then at that point it's choice, our choice, collective choice. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how else, it seems that it has to start from there. If I'm, just being bluntly honest from the standpoint of why do you have an opinion, or why do you look at this in a way that you look at this? People can organize the world any way they want. You just have to accept the consequences of it. My thing is, go for it.
Don't you think that people make these false associations to capitalism to apologize for it? Like, do you think that happens? Because that's something that I see more and more of that we're finally starting to break down. People make it out like wanting to innovate or wanting to create or wanting to contribute to society can somehow be attributed to capitalism, which is a bunch of bullshit. That has nothing to do with capitalism. That has everything to do with the human condition. But we're brainwashed to think that such a pursuit can exist without capitalism, and it's a straight up lie.
Yeah, it's a total lie. But those people are born and raised in a system, and that's all they know. Like, it's almost like many people think they think for themselves. Oftentimes, not really, they don't. You're born and you're raised, and from the time that you're born to the time that you drop dead, things are dropped into you from the larger society and from your parents, and things about right and wrong, about the law that will hit you in the head and those type of things. Meaning you are basically your environment. With some modicum of that's you. If you were born in the Soviet Union at the time, you would have those people fighting hard to defend the Soviet Union. They do the same thing for this. And they associate that stuff with the economic system because this is the only economic system they know. And they don't have enough sense to realize that that's not an issue of the system itself. That's an issue of being a person. People create technology because people try to find easier ways to do things. It is endemic to the human condition. The wild part about that, though, is you can make a case that says capitalism will produce certain things. Like, would it produce something that makes people profit? Yes. But do we really need a blow pop? Do we really need the McDonald's, that's sitting there making hamburgers and trying to find the cheapest product that they can possibly make to put it to the hamburgers to sell to you to make the most profit? Yes, capitalism will make that nonsense. It would also make bullshit jobs. It would make all that stuff. But that's not endemic to, like technology and advancement. It's not endemic to the human. It's just part of who we are.
That is just human nature.
That's just human nature.
Well, I think getting this back to the oil spill, I mean, in some ways, capitalism is actually the opposite of human nature because, look, it's also human nature is to pursue technological solutions. Well, we have some solutions out there for our energy needs. And, drill, baby, drill is not it. And we're ready to move past that as a society. Yet we don't because of capitalism. So you see shit like this, where oil spills are still happening in places where most people don't want this anymore. I mean, even Wall Street, for crying out loud, even Wall Street is getting away from fossil fuel investment. I mean, not all of Wall Street, obviously, but some of Wall Street.
They see the writing on the wall.
Yeah, they see the writing on the wall.
They see the writing.
Like the biggest criminals in the world are like, it's time to move on. We had our fun. But yet it's still happening.
It's like, yeah, we fucked over the planet. Now I need you guys to pay for it. That's basically right. Isn't that what it is?
You guys pay for it and figure out a way to fix it.
Figure out a way to fix it. It's environmental consequences that they basically push off on the public to fix after they gotten billions and billions and billions. Do you realize they understood back in the 80s that this was taking place? They understood it. They saw the documentation was there saying, hey, you're creating a situation of global warming where you're putting that stuff in the sky and it's going to basically heat the planet up. They understood it in the 80s. Exxon.
It was actually the 70s, wasn't it? I think it was even further.
I thought it was the 70s, but I'm not sure. So I'm going with the 80s just to be on the safe side.
All right. Well, either way, it's been a while. It's been a
very long time. They knew it. And they took a financial choice to ignore it. Oh, capitalism is great. That financial source. Because for them, the profit mattered more. And the wild part is, the profit is not even real. The planetary thing is real. The human beings are real. The people that are going to die from that stuff in the environment are real. The cash is not. And yet, based on this kind of fictitious environmental system that we organize ourselves around, they will still say, I get an advantage out of the fact that this is horrible. And I'm going to take that advantage and I'm going to leave that problem for the next guy, because after I leave my job, somebody else will have to deal with it. It's very bizarre. It's not like, it's almost as if they don't understand that this is the only planet we got. Habitable space.
Yes.
And that they can basically court themselves off into a wall and live kind of like in some kind of Ayn Rand nonsense. They don't realize this, but that is not defensible. It's not defensible. You can have all the robots that you want. It's astonishing to me, but they would do that. For them, that's not a big deal to them. Because in their heads, I don't have to live near that situation where that place is that horrible. And I can always retreat to somewhere else.
Not in my backyard.
But the thing is us. The thing is us. I don't blame a billionaire for saying, I don't really give a shit about the public. I got $1 billion. I can fly away. Or I can build a rocket ship and go to Mars. I blame the public because we got to live with that nonsense. And, I get the idea of the cash, and I get that people are paid for this or that. I even get that we're kind of atomized, where everybody is in their own little enclave. And it's like you have the environmentalists fighting this, you have other people fighting this, with no concerted whole and no concerted point of view for the whole. I don't know how that fixes itself. I mean, because honestly, the environmental stuff is always going to lose because of the money that's against it without getting rid of other stuff. It's almost like you have to work through one thing in order to get to the other.
Well, you have to go after some of the biggest polluters in the world. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean,
but
we
can
could
you make a campaign for that, or do you have to make a campaign to get in, and then the public allow you to do that? I think it's the other. I think you have to make a campaign. Like, let's say Sanders went gangbusters. He doesn't have to say shit about the environment. He gets in office and he says, we're going to go after the polluters. Is the public going to bitch at that? No, not at all. Because Sanders made his campaign promises and made it stick. Same way with Republicans. When a Republican gets in office, what he does? I'm going to go a massive tax cut. He gives it to the people who he cares about and everything else. And it allow him to do some really horrible shit that the public lets him slide on. It's astonishing to me, but it's true. If you fulfill the public's needs and expectations, they will allow you to do the other stuff that you care about. And the environmental pollution stuff would be stuff that the public would be perfectly on board for the moment that the public itself is made whole.
I think that it's totally okay to campaign on it, because I think people care. Like I think people definitely care about the environment. They just don't really want to be inconvenienced.
Yes.
But, reining in these polluters is just 100% necessary. And it's like, we could and should do everything we can as individuals. Absolutely. I mean, we should recycle. We should compost. We should do our absolute best. But
yeah, but that's bull. That's bull. They always put that there to put that on the public. As if
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. No. That's exactly what I'm saying. They do that to put it on us, where they're just like, well, if you do this, this, and this, and it's like, yes, absolutely, and that's great. However, it is a small drop in the bucket if you don't go after these people who are using our planet as their playground, which is the Amazons of the world, the Walmarts of the world, and honestly, the worldwide just oligarchy, really. I mean, and you look at places like China, even. China's a big polluter, yes, but they are seeking out green solutions much more than the United States is, and they're spreading that around the world. That's why, as far as like, I don't know what to do about this, I've pretty much come to the conclusion that it's like the rest of the world is going to have to drag the United States kicking and screaming into a solution. I mean, I hope I'm proven wrong on that, but I don't see any, systemic change happening anytime soon, at least not at the mass level that it needs to, unless the world puts pressure on.
I don't even think world putting pressure on the United States would matter. That's how far I think it is. Because I think on some level it's mechanical. How do you unravel companies in a business model that they've been doing for the last, 50 years or more? And then on top of that, getting subsidies, getting all sorts of cash associated with it. The economic system runs on it. Even the pills that you take, the bags that are in the cereal, those things are made of oil. Like all of that stuff is oil. And so it's like all of that stuff needs to change, right? How does it change? When does it change? At which point is there a changeover from one use of that particular product to some other product that does exactly what we need that product to do? And who's going to invest the money for that change? All of these things are capitalistic choices, right? If I'm in business and I have to make a choice on what am I going to use, A or B, what is the expense? How is it going to hurt me? It's baked into it. So it's like, it's one thing if you had this point of view, or we had a point of view as a society that the environment mattered, period. And because it mattered, maybe it's not a great idea to get oranges, let's say from China, and sell them into Florida when Florida can make oranges. I'm just using an example. I'm making a point that we never take the environment into account when we're thinking about our politics, or for that matter, thinking about our capitalistic reasoning. And even in the context of capitalism, there still should be some level of acknowledgement of the fucking world around you that you will persist. Like, because it gets bizarre. It's almost as if it's a death cult, where the notion that this planet has limits doesn't apply. It's as if it's a resource that's always there, that can always give, that is limitless, and that's not true. And yet, that's the way it operates. And you know, I don't know. It almost takes reality itself to stop that. Now, I always say reality is, you know, ideology is a poor substitute for reality. And in this very specific case, yeah, I think it's going to hit the skids. I think it's going to hit the skids when it realizes there's no further it can go. But do I have any idea that somebody's going to try to put the brakes on? No, I don't see it. I don't see it even with Joe Biden. No. I mean, what those oil things that he just opened up, because as his job as president, he's probably going to say, I need to be fair on some level. And there are people who are putting money in my pocket, and I don't want to push this too hard. You know, it gets to that nonsense. When, no, I agree with you. There needs to be a concerted, very clear understanding that the environment matters. And that case needs to be made. I just think that case gets made and that case gets won when the public itself is made whole. That's all.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think it's going to take, there's got to be environmental solutions and technological solutions. It's going to be all of the above. And it's going to take some cooperation among the world. And I just hope, I hope we are a better player, we being the United States, than I'm anticipating right now. I hope I'm proven wrong. I really do. But,
well, you know, the environment, the world didn't get straight until it hit environmental collapse.
Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and